What's up, guys? It's Friday night, and I'm bitching about myself. So, we all make mistakes as techs. It's part of what we do. It's part of the learning process. It's part of the repair process. It's part of the diag process. But we all make mistakes. It's kind of an unspoken thing that we just don't want to acknowledge those. We don't want to talk about them because it's uncomfortable, right? It's not comfortable admitting that we're fallible and that we are not perfect. No one in this industry is perfect. No one in this industry has ever gone without making a mistake. It happens and it sucks. You have two things you can do with that. You can try and brush it under the carpet, try and hide it, try and write it off to someone else. And let's face it, most techs can write their way out of anything. But if you are serious about this, you're not going to do that. You're going to acknowledge the mistake. You're going to go up and you're going to tell your counter people about it. You're going to tell whoever your immediate supervisor is, whether it's foreman, service advisor, the shop manager, whatever it is. You're going to acknowledge that mistake, make them aware of it as soon as possible. That does a couple of things. One, it gives them the opportunity to call the client and say, hey, we have a situation, whatever they're going to do to make the customer aware of it, but you have to acknowledge it. You have to make it known there's a problem, right? Whether it's a missed diag, something got missed on an eval, and that was mine. There was a little bit of a there was a big communications breakdown in the shop. A couple processes weren't followed. Something was communicated to me verbally. I was occupied with something else and I forgot about it. I took a quick, cursory, very low quality look at something that was a complaint that the client brought up to us, and I looked right past it. I'm not going to hide it. It's nobody else's fault. It's my fault. There were steps in the process that were missed, and I missed it badly. Not happy about it, not proud of it, but it happened. I can't change it. Once we figured out where things went wrong, I went into investigator mode, and I do that with every breakdown that we have. I will go through, I'll investigate what happened from beginning to end, from all the way from the check-in process through the QC process, and figure out where things broke down. I do this very objectively, and I actually have a pretty, not long, but I have a file folder on my computer that is nothing but investigations of things that went wrong. That doesn't mean they left and came back all the time. This one didn't, but it's every time something goes wrong, I dive in, I start from the check-in, again, check-in through QC, I go through that entire ticket. I talk to everybody who was involved with it. I figure out where things were not done correctly. I go through the logs on Shopware to see when things were put in, when they were done. We keep pretty extensive call logs. We will make notes on tickets on when calls are made, so I can see when communications happened. 9 times out of 10, I can figure out pretty quickly where things went wrong. So what do we do after we do that? I type everything up, I write out a report on what went sideways, then we sit down and we discuss it as a team, collectively. Not just with people that are involved, with everybody in the shop. I'll usually do that either in the morning meeting or our afternoon meeting, but I'll go through with everybody. It's not just the people that are involved that this affects, it affects all of us. And we have to be able to coach through those things. We have to be able to understand where those breakdowns occur and what we have to do to fix them. I'm a tech, right? I guess I'm a lead tech, foreman, whatever you want to call me. I still see myself as a tech. I'm one of the boys. But sometimes it takes someone who's in the same shoes to be able to do that and have an impact. I have the pleasure of working with the best team I've ever worked with. Everybody is very self-aware. We're very accountable to each other. We know what the score is. We know what the process is. And if something goes wrong, it's not a blame game, right? And that's something that's so common in this industry. When something goes wrong, especially in dealers, something goes wrong, blame the tech. Tech's fault. Crucify him. Hang him. Burn him at the stake. That doesn't solve anything. That turns everything into a meat grinder, and it's dog eat dog. Nobody gives a shit. He screwed up. No, he screwed up. No, he screwed up. No, he screwed up. There's no accountability. There's no acknowledgement that, yeah, we make mistakes. It happens. And it can be really stupid things, and it can be really major things. What I can tell you, 99% of the major screw-ups that happen boil down to communication. Almost all of them boil down to poor communication, whether that is verbal or documented on the ticket. But that's where most of these problems stem from. Something wasn't communicated effectively, someone didn't understand something and didn't ask questions, but that's where most of these problems occur. Creating an enforceable action plan to correct it. What does that mean? Do we have to create a policy? Do we have to edit a policy or a procedure? Do we have to make a shift in the way we do things to prevent something from happening? That's what I did. We have to be able to do something that's enforceable and realistic, right? We've got to be able to set a standard and then stick to that standard and enforce it if we don't. What does enforcing that look like? That can be everything from verbal counseling to a write-up to termination. In my career, the one thing that has always been an instant out the door is leaving a wheel loose. If you leave a wheel loose, that to me is you don't care. Of all the things that we can leave loose on a car, and I have left my fair share of stuff loose, especially early in my career where I was on flat rate, very inexperienced, had no business being on flat rate. I would rip through stuff and I would leave stuff loose. I have never in my life left a wheel loose. It has not happened. The day it happens, I will pack my shit up and sell it. I've never accepted that out of anyone on my team. If it was brushed off, I didn't respond to it too well. That's a no-go for me. The other one I have a huge problem with is leaving drain plugs loose. I cut loose a bunch of guys because they left drain plugs loose. When I was up in New York, I would not tolerate that. We marketed ourselves up there as well as down here as an elite shop. We're the be-all end-all, where problems come to die. You leave a drain plug loose, that is inexcusable to me. So an enforceable action plan with measurable, real standards has to be created, whether it's with a tech who has a problem or a shop-wide policy that's leaving holes, whatever it is, it has to be identified and a plan has to be come up to address that. Last biggest thing is team accountability. That does not mean blame. This is not the dealer. It's not a blame game. It's not about who screwed up and how bad they screwed up. It's about understanding why the screw up happened and what do we learn from it. And not, we learn not to do that again. No, that kind of chintzy crap doesn't fly. What are we going to do to make this better and not let it happen again? And what are we going to do as a team to hold each other accountable? If you have one guy doing the intake, the initial evaluation, the diagnostic, the repair, and the QC, guess what you don't have? There is zero oversight. We have a lot of oversight in our shop. My last shop, we had a lot of oversight. I had hands on every vehicle that came through that building. Whether I was doing the work and somebody else was checking it after the fact, through a road test, through scan data, through resolution verification, whatever we had to do. But there were at least 2 people touching every vehicle through that shop. And ours now, there's at least 3, sometimes more. There's got to be oversight and there's got to be accountability. If something goes wrong, you cannot freak out and automatically blame the tech. Just as many screw-ups happen up front. But when you're a tech, and I cannot emphasize this enough, when you're a tech, if you make a mistake, that's okay. We're allowed to make mistakes. It's how you deal with it that defines what kind of technician you are. If you make a mistake, you own it. 100% you own it, acknowledge it, and do your own investigation into it. Do your own inspection of what happened. Where was the process broken down? And don't be afraid to identify flaws in the process. You as a technician, you are the individual doing the work on that vehicle. If you are not able to look at yourself and see where there are flaws in the process, you're not helping. You've got to be willing to look and say, hey, I can do this better. I screwed this up. I made a mistake. I just cost my shop $3,100. That does not make me happy. But the other thing that we can't do, we can't live in it. I know a lot of guys in this that hold themselves to a really high standard as technicians. I know just as many who hold themselves to a really low, laughable, and kind of terrifying standard. You've got to be able to look at it, and you've got to be able to accept that you're not perfect. None of us are. But we have to take these mistakes and these screw-ups. We have to learn from them and move forward from them. If we don't do that, we're not going to advance. We're not going to evolve. We're not going to get better. We've all learned by screwing up. Some screw-ups, yeah, you find it, you break something, you can fix it. Cool, move on with life, right? Maybe let the front know what happened and just clarify with them that this happened while I was doing the job and I took care of it. It's not an issue anymore. You still need to let them know that something went sideways, right? They can convey that to the client. They can make a note in the ticket that we need to take a look at this next time to make sure there's no problem, right? But you've got to be accountable for your own actions. You've got to be able to be accountable yourself. You've got to be willing to look within and understand where your flaws are and understand where flaws in the processes are, come to the table with a solution for those problems. You know, we all, if we see a problem, we have an obligation to say something and craft a resolution with the team to make it not a problem anymore. But guys, if you like what I'm saying, if you don't like what I'm saying, agree, disagree, whatever it is, drop a comment, start some conversation. Let's talk about it. Throw me a like, throw me a subscribe, get involved. Have a good one, guys. We'll see you next time.